Hey, what's up, everybody? Today, we are talking about wolves and sheep and a whole lot of fruit. Jesus is teaching us today how to spot the difference between true and false prophets. Now, spoiler alert, true prophets look like Jesus. So let's go ahead and dive right in, shall we? If you have your Bibles with you, we are in Matthew chapter 7, and we're going to be in verses 15 to 20. And a little bit later, we will be in Galatians chapter 5, verses 22 and 23. So if you have your Bibles, go ahead and put your finger in there, all right? Thanks for being here. Let's get started, shall we? Okay, Jesus says these words: watch out for false prophets. Now prophets are people who speak on behalf of God. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ferocious wolves. Unfortunately, according to Jesus, these people, they initially look the part. They'll in fact convince you that they are one of you, and they will trick you into thinking that they are a part of your tribe and their interests are also your interests. It's like the old story about the axe that convinced the forest that he was one of them because they're made of wood. Okay, check out what he says here. By their fruit, you will recognize them. By their fruit, you will recognize them. Do people pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Likewise, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. Okay, fruit in the Bible is a metaphor for our actions. So our fruit equals our actions. People will always eventually tell you who they are. And a lot of false fruit trees out there. There's a lot of talking trees out there. They're promising you the world. They're like, no, trust me. I got apples. I got apples coming. Yeah, but where's the fruit? Where's the fruit?
Apples! Oh, look! Ouch!
What do you think you're doing?
Whoa, okay? A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit.
Just as she doesn't like little green worms.
Oh, you.
Check this out. Check this out what Jesus is saying here. Both good and bad trees have fruit. One just tastes like hot garbage. And unfortunately, one of the only ways to tell what kind of fruit they are is to take a bite. How many of us have had bad fruit stories? We're still bitter about some of them, aren't we? I want you to listen to me for a second, though. Don't feel ashamed for biting into a bad apple. It's not your fault that they talked a good talk and looked the part. They tricked you. They deceived you. It happens. But here's what you got to do. This is what you got to do. You got to stop going to that same terrible tree over and over again. You got to stop thinking that next time it'll be different. You got to stop blaming yourself and making excuses for that terrible tree. Okay, you got to do that. You got to stop listening to the voices that say something is wrong with your taste buds, or that you are actually crazy, or that you have something wrong with you. Don't listen to those voices. Don't listen to those terrible trees. What if, and hear me out, what if it's a piece of crap tree? I don't care what the tree tells you. You will know by its fruit what kind of tree it is. Jesus said it best. Every tree that does not bear fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. I want you to watch the tense here. It's present tense. Present tense. This is not a hell verse. What tree told you that this was a hell verse? All right, stop listening to the bad fruit trees in this world, okay? With wolf fangs trying to convince you that the problem is you, and that if you don't stay in that toxic and dysfunctional relationship, if you don't stay in that corrupt system, if you don't stay in that dusty old church building that suspiciously smells of rotten fruit, then you will one day be cut down by God and thrown into a fire. And that it's all your fault. Man, get that bum of a tree out of your life. Don't let them tell you why you are leaving. Don't let them put words in your mouth. Don't let them scare the hell out of you. Toxic trees need you to stay because they need the validation. It can't be a terrible fruit tree. Look at all the miserable schmucks eating of my fruit. That's what the trees want you to think, all right? I've seen some can I say schmucks? I've seen some trees who pay people to be there to eat the crappy fruit salad. I've seen it. You don't do that. No, don't do it. Read it again what Jesus says. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown in the fire. Present tense. So here's what you do. You cut them out, Joey Gladstone style. You burn it down. You have nothing to do with them. You don't owe the bad tree anything. Walk away. Hey, guess what? Trees can't follow you. They're stuck where they are. They're a tree. Make like a tree. Get out of here, right? You can move on from them. I promise you, there are good trees out there, and there is good fruit out there. I promise you that. This message from Jesus, it was a barn burner at the time. The people swimming in corrupt systems of toxic dysfunction, they hated Jesus for it. And the first followers of Jesus, they talked about this particular message often, all right? This teaching about true and false prophets were shared around campfires for decades. And then these followers of Jesus, they finally put it together that good shepherds lay their lives down for their sheep. They don't attack them viciously like a wild wolf. They don't devour them like some twisted version of a Trojan horse. That's not going on here. All right? Jesus is good, and he produces good fruit in people. So the good trees look like Jesus, and the trees with the bad fruit don't. And so they finally came up with a list, the followers of Jesus. What does Jesus look like? And what do people walking with God look like? And what do people in step with the Holy Spirit look like? And so they wrote it all down and they made a list. All right, it's a beautiful list. Because when people walk in step with God, their life bears fruit, and this fruit is good. And this list can be found particularly in Galatians chapter 5, verses 22 and 23. So go ahead and turn there. I thought it'd be a good thing to bring this teaching home by unpacking this list. You see, when we know what Jesus is like, it's easy to find Jesus' followers. It's easy to know the difference between a good tree and a bad one. It's easier to spot the wolves when you know. All right, sound cool? Great. Get your notebooks out. Let's take some notes here. Get your coffee. Let's go. I am in Galatians 5, verses 22 and 23. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. All right, let's go. Let's go. Buckle up, people. The fruit of the Spirit is love. The word for love here is the Greek word agape. It is the highest form of love known to humanity. One that we couldn't have thought up for ourselves, in fact. We only know of this love because God revealed it through Jesus. It's best described by undefinable benevolence. This love never tires of doing good for people who least expect it and least deserve it. This love, agape, gives freely without asking for anything in return. It is love by choice. It's not based in emotion or circumstance. Now, when the New Testament writers say that God is love, they say that God is agape, the full embodiment of this love, the sacrificial love. And that means that you can't earn this love. You can't lose this love. You don't have to jump through hoops to get this love. You don't have to say special prayers. Your hair doesn't need to get wet in a baptistry for a minute for God to love you. Your prayer journal doesn't need to be perfect, right? It is perfectly okay. You don't have to listen to K-Love to earn the love of God. Turn it back to your favorite radio station. It's all right. God hasn't fallen in love with you. God won't fall out of love with you. God loves you. Anyone who tells you differently missed the point, unfortunately, of the Bible and doesn't know what agape means. That's tragic. And that person wasn't looking at Jesus' actions, which is why they aren't following in Jesus' example. Jesus refused to seek revenge. Retaliation wasn't an option. He refused to hate. He even laid down his life for all. That's agape. So Bible junkies watching right now, long before original sin, there was original agape. Therefore, there was original grace before there was original sin. All right? And if you currently listen to a prophet preaching hate or exclusion or shame or guilt and the need to earn the favor of God, get a new prophet. Unless having enemies is your thing. All right, next fruit, joy. The word for joy speaks to a state of being much deeper than happiness. We're talking about serenity and stability, even in the midst of the storms in life. And it leads to profound gladness and peace in who you are in this universe, regardless of circumstances. You see, happiness is fleeting based on circumstances. But I want you to watch for the people who have joy in spite of their circumstances, in spite of the news cycle. People of joy are people of strength, like a house built on a rock in a storm. The joy of the Lord is their strength. The followers of Jesus were often beaten within an inch of their lives, yet they're still singing chained to a wall in a prison. Nothing could rob them of their joy found in Jesus. If you currently follow a prophet with anger lines above their eyes and frown lines next to their mouth, then they're preaching outrage and fear over joy. If they're filing grievances and acting like a spoiled brat, even though they're 57 or 67 or 77, yeah, if that's your prophet, get a new prophet. Beware of those preaching outrage and fear over joy. Next word, peace. Peace. Jesus is described as the Prince of Peace. He makes peace. He pieces this broken world back together again. You see, the idea for peace here is shalom or wholeness, making something whole again. And it's impossible. It's impossible to make the world whole again when we are agents of division, when we are divided. It's impossible to love your neighbor as yourself when you make them out to be an other, right? People of peace recognize that God so loved the entire world, not just one group, not just one tribe, not just those who love them back. No, the whole of it, because God is a God of peace. If you are currently a follower of a prophet who has an enemy list or is propping up a political party or an ideology over people or spouting off MSNBC or Fox News talking points instead of speaking the words of Christ, good grief. That's your prophet. Get a new prophet. Next word, patience, also known as long-suffering, meaning God would rather suffer and die than to make you his enemy. People love enemies, don't they? This is why the Bible is full of people saying things like, you just wait, just you wait, right? God is going to come along and beat the crap out of you. There's verses like that in the Bible. Yet your ex-boyfriend is still alive. There's some really bad apples out there still, just walking free. Anyone else out there wondering why God hasn't killed Satan yet? Why he didn't do it like a long time ago? Well, it's either because he's in on it or because God's patient. Too patient. And so it should be with you. Patient people don't retaliate We don't seek revenge. We don't plot our enemy's demise. No. We love, we have joy. We are people of peace. Therefore, we have patience. We would rather suffer for a long time than see someone else suffer, right? That's patience. We are patient with people. The opposite of patience, what's the word? Ferocious, fiery, furious, raging, violent. So yeah, if your prophet embodies those traits, especially the word ferocious, and you're watching person after person after person around you get chewed up and spat out, you're likely next, and you're likely hanging out with a wolf. You don't want to be the sheep that hangs out with wolves, because if that's you, the clock's ticking, friend. Because wolves aren't patient. They're not patient. Next word, kindness. Kindness. Kindness is always next to patience and love. Love is patient. Love is kind. Kindness, simply put, is love in action. Kindness is working for the good of people regardless of what they do. Love in action. It's benevolence. It's generosity. Kindness is helping. So look for the helpers. Mr. Rogers once said that. Yeah. Look for the helpers. Mr. Rogers was kind. Lindsay tells our kids almost every day, you can be anything you want in this world, but above all else, be kind. So, what would the opposite of kindness be? Well, if your prophet is greedy or stingy or self-seeking or self-centered or inhumane, cruel even, friends, get a new prophet. Goodness. This is where we're getting into the territory of moral excellence, being a high-quality individual. Not only being able to carry your own weight, but you can also take on some burdens from those around you too. Right? Goodness can also mean being a person of virtue, a person of great honor and character. And yes, it's also important to be a person of morals. It is. Morality is important. Morality is a good thing. It really is. But casting people aside, burning people to the ground for sinning differently than you, how moral is that really? Right? Self-righteousness isn't morality. It shows us you learned nothing from the words of Jesus. Remember what Jesus taught us. Treat others the way you want to be treated. That's the whole rule. That's the whole golden rule. The dadgum Bible can be summed up in that. You can have all the morals in the world, but if you have not love, you have nothing. So, if your prophet is devoid of morals, is a complete deviant, and miraculously still has it in them to condemn others, yikes. Get a new prophet. Faithfulness. This speaks to the idea of being trustworthy. Are you a trustworthy person? Is this person a person who tells the truth and lives it? Is this a person whose word and actions match? Or is this a person who's a liar and a cheater? They usually go hand in hand, lying and cheating. How about this? Is this a person who sells people out or throws other people under a bus to save themselves? Or never owns up to their own mistakes or never deals with reality honestly? Is that who we're dealing with here? Is this a person who keeps things in the dark, uses secrecy, fear, even sometimes blackmail to stay in power? Yeah. If that's your prophet, get a new prophet. All right, gentleness. Gentleness speaks to a disposition that is even-tempered, tranquil, peaceful waters in an ocean of chaos. A person whose passions are under control. Another word for gentleness is the word meekness, which means power or strength under control. Gentle people, they're forgiving people. They correct faults. with gentleness. They actually, they rule their own demeanor well, and they work to reconcile and restore people gently. Ephesians 4:2, it's a great memory verse. Go ahead and memorize it. Be completely humble and patient, bearing with one another in love. Yeah, so if your prophet is cruel or ruthless or mean-spirited, if your prophet's a friggin' jerk, if you're tempted to say, yeah, but he's our jerk. Hey, he's our jerk. We love him like that. I'm so glad he goes after other people we don't like. Yeah. If that's your prophet, it's only a matter of time before the wolf comes after you too. Right? Wolves will eventually run out of sheep to devour. So buckle up, lamb chop. It's only a matter of time, right? It's not a cool thing they're cruel. Get a new prophet. All right, final one. Self-control. Self-control. Having mastery over your thoughts and actions. The ability to police yourself. Predators can't help themselves, right? They are addicted and they leave a wake of destruction in their path. The wolves destroy, right? They steal and kill and destroy. Lust and greed and abuse and ruin follow a life with a lack of self-control. Too many self-proclaimed prophets out there with abuse on their record, with porn on their hard drives. Hey, guess what? Did you know this fun fact? A fruit of the Spirit isn't modesty, but a fruit of the Spirit is self-control. Stop making girls at church camp swim in trash bags, and let's learn some self-freaking control. Can we try that? The fruit of the Spirit, while I'm on the subject, is not control. It's self-control. Jesus hung out with women, lots of women, no problem. No sexual harassment lawsuits there. He hung out with prostitutes and porn stars, and yet he didn't have to pay a single one of them off. Weird, huh? Isn't that weird? So, if your false prophet doesn't have a shred of self-control, if the misogyny or the xenophobia or the racism just falls out of their mouth, if they've left a ton of damage and pain in their wake, it's time to get a new prophet, okay? Preferably a prophet who acts like Jesus. I love you guys. Thank you for listening. Again, there's a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing out there. There's a lot of bad fruit being thrown around out there. Let's just make sure that the people we listen to look like Jesus. Can we do that? Let's try to be like Jesus this week. Thanks for being here. Good talk, everybody. We'll see you around.